Atiangi is telling Natembea, let me show you the way. But see, Natembea knows how to walk. Get it? Anyway, so that's what they're looking into. KTDA, farmers to get final bonus plus 2 billion shilling refunds. 2 Somali miners deny desecrating the Kenyan flag. Of course, that story, their charges are being brought against them in a Nairobi court. And state locks special groups and young people out of tender of billions of shillings. And we remember we had heard that they were some of the special focus groups that were going to be considered for a lot of these things going into the future. Well, here's an example of where they're not. So there's a lot going on. Busia put on the spot over 200 million shilling graft claims. We know that the county machinani is going on right now. Senators are out finding out what's going on in the counties in their oversight role, and they don't like it that in Busia quite some money is not being accounted for. And these are some of the stories. Kenya calls for digitization, ease of trade at the Nairobi Commerce Summit, which is currently going on. KRA's custom tax revenue hit 3 billion shillings daily in September. 3 billion shillings daily. Well, Ndiritu Morethi is going to be here at 8 o'clock. We're going to ask him, you guys are getting 3 billion shillings daily. That's a lot of money. Where is it going? That always is a question, isn't it? All right. So that's what it looks like. And of course, the Business Daily tells us how the World Bank is pushing for higher VAT and excise duty. Seriously, I don't know that folks can contend with what currently is the state of things. Let's look at some of these stories then now in detail. So there's quite some. I don't know where to start. Let's start off with this daughter who's kicked out her widowed mother in a bitter inheritance row. 51-year-old widow is embroiled in a bitter dispute with her only daughter after a Kiambu Principal Magistrate's Court granted the daughter authority to inherit her matrimonial home. Consequently, Margaret Heta Gathaya, who was once granted letters of administration for the estate of her late husband Samuel Gathaya Kabia, now finds herself unwanted in her own home by her 35-year-old daughter Bilha Wajiko Gathaya, her own daughter. Gathaya, a pensioner and former lecturer at the University of Nairobi, died without a will on the 26th of April 2017. His widow, Heta, filed succession case number 121 of 2017, was granted letters of administration for her husband's estate on the 26th of January the following year. Although she was expected to serve as the absolute administrator, her daughter, Bilha, contested the decision, arguing that Heta had failed to disclose during the succession proceedings that she had a daughter who was also entitled to a share of her father's estate. So daughter gets pissed off and says, hold on a minute, you didn't tell them that I am there? Watch Nikusho. In a petition dated September 9th, Bilha accused her mother, 2021, Bilha accused her mother of fraudulently obtaining the grant by excluding her from the succession proceedings, therefore disinheriting her. You go there, you don't tell them, you fail to mention that I exist. Sawa. She further alleged that her mother had gone on a spree selling off parcels of land left behind by her late father. In response, Heta claimed that Bilha was not Gathaya's biological daughter and was therefore not entitled to a share of her estate, of his estate. Do you understand? They went and said, actually, Toto is not for the father, it's for somebody else, so I'm the wife.
Always knows the child's father.
It goes crazy. Heta claimed that she was not Gathaya's biological daughter. Bilha now produced her birth certificate and national identity card to prove that indeed she was Gathaya's daughter. Heta told the court that under Section 76 of the Law of Succession Act, Bilha could only claim inheritance from her mother's estate, not her late father's. But in a judgment delivered on January 19, 2023, Principal Magistrate P. Moholi ruled otherwise and said, I have weighed both submissions by parties and find sufficient evidence linking the applicant as a child of the deceased. Consequently, I revoke the grant issued to Margaret Heta Gathaya on the 15th of November 2017. They further found that Heta had excluded Bilha from succession, noting this certificate of confirmation and the grant herein was obtained by concealing from the court the fact that the deceased had a daughter. When you read this headline, you're going to think, oh my goodness, what a callous daughter. Then you go and find out that the mother essentially wanted to disown and disinherit the child of 35. And the court says, Nana, not under my watch. and the daughter has now been given the letters of administration. Be careful what you do, little hands.
It's a question of, was she raised by this man?
Apparently, but the mother now, when she went to inherit the land, went and failed to mention that there's a daughter in all of this who is an adult of sound mind today.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just a question of why would the mother do that to the daughter? Because remember, all along, this girl has called this man daddy.
Is her father.
Is her father.
Yeah.
And then you look at even the documentations that are there, and they point to the fact that this man was the father. So why go around and disinherit your own child?
It's called greed, Dennis. Greed. It's a terrible thing. People will do anything. Doesn't matter who you are. You can be their twin sister. You shared the same whatever for 9 months before you came out. You can look exactly like, you can do whatever it is, but it's greed, man.
Yeah.
The things that people will do to keep stuff for themselves is unbelievable. If you leave alone mother, daughter, husband, wife, people don't care.
They keep saying everything that we own on the face of the earth is all vanity because we live him here. But
in the meantime,
enjoy before I go.
Exactly. Greed is a terrible thing.
Enjoyment is for now.
Yep.
The rest will come later.
But die.
Exactly.
Suffer Valley.
So there is a story of the PS who's no show in Parliament. Now, Treasury Principal Secretary Chris Kiptoo is under fire from members of Parliament after failing to honour 16 invitations to appear before a watchdog committee to account for the expenditure of public funds. The National Assembly's Special Funds Accounts Committee is furious that Dr. Kiptoo has repeatedly snubbed his summons to explain the use of billions of shillings allocated to 14 entities under his purview. According to the committee chaired by Migori Woman Representative Fatuma Mohammed, a series of invitations dating back to 2023, the most recent on Wednesday, October 8th, 2025, have all been ignored. In a strongly worded statement, the committee accused Dr. Kiptoo of being a stumbling block to its constitutional duty of scrutinizing how funds under his control have been utilized. The biggest challenge remains the continued failure of the accounting officer to appear before the committee despite repeated invitations. Now, according to her, she says this persistent non-compliance has stalled progress in concluding scrutiny and impeded the committee's mandate of ensuring transparency and accountability of the use of public resources, the committee said. Now, the committee said it has successfully scrutinized and concluded examinations of 50 funds, excluding 14 pending ones under Dr. Kiptoo. It noted that completing the review of the 14 would mark a major milestone in clearing the existing backlog and enhancing accountability in the management of special funds. So the gentleman is in charge of all these accounts.
Yes.
And with members of parliament in the committees that are there at the oversight body, they are supposed to go through the dockets that you hold, how funds is being spent, just so they can clear the audit queries raised by even the Auditor General, right? But here's a question where the man who's in charge of implementation of policies in a ministry is not sure. So we have 14 accounts that are pending. Out of over 40 that they've gone through, there are 14 that is pending, but the PS is not sure. Question is, why does he not want to respond to the queries that do exist?
If on the face of it, if you hold a docket for which there needs to be query made about it by a committee that is constitutionally mandated to do this, and you don't show up. How many times did they say they've summoned him? 14?
14, yes.
And he's not shown up even once?
16, actually.
They've summoned him and he's not shown up even once. Methinks there's something the man doesn't want to talk about. Because, okay, one can understand that you were busy the first time, you got sick the second, and the third you had to take your dog to the vet. But 10, 15, 16, you don't show up. Again, I reckon that there's some kind of explanation that he doesn't want to give.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let me just tell you some of the funds that we're talking about here. The Rural Enterprise Fund, the Treasury Main Clearance Fund, the Local Loans Support Fund, Government Clearing Agency, Equalization Fund, African Union and other international organization subscription fund, Provident Fund, and the European Widows and Orphans Pensions Fund. Others are the Asian Officers Family Pensions Fund, Asiatic Widows and Orphans Pension Fund, Contingencies Fund,
Asiatic Widows, Asiatic Widows and Orphans Pension Fund. Yeah.
Contingencies Fund, Petroleum Development Levy Fund,
Bus.
COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund,
Bus.
and the Credit Guarantee Scheme.
So from the list that you've given, do you see why maybe
Exactly.
he's had to take his dog to the vet 3 times
Three
repeatedly,
times,
and
yes.
that's why he couldn't show up for the summons? Yes.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science to me. It's very clear why he's not showing up.
Yep.
You keep summoning him, and he doesn't come. He's telling you something. You know, so I think they keep summoning him.
But my question is, you look at the National Assembly and the powers it has. It can first of all surcharge this gentleman
They can
for not
censure
showing
him,
up.
actually.
They
Yes,
can
they can.
censure him. They can even move for a motion of impeachment for him to be fired.
Well,
You know, all these things, Parliament has the powers, and let's see if they will wait for the 17th time and then come complain. You have the powers to act and move.
maybe.
They're the ones who interview these guys, vet them, and
Yeah, Parliament vets
approve.
PSs. Yes.
Yes.
I wonder, but is telling you something without telling you something.
Something, yes.
Yeah, he is. Let's look into this DCI grilling of cocaine suspects as London police seek answers. So let's take a few minutes to look into the story because it's quite something. And so the subs there are that in CCTV footage, a cabinet minister's aide is seen in a queue with alleged drug trafficker. Okay? He has been questioned as a person of interest as officers try to unravel the JKIA cocaine web. Now, 2 suspects who allegedly assisted a foreign national in smuggling drugs through security check-ins at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport have been questioned by officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and Kiambu Road and later released. So they had a few, something to chat about. One suspect, known as Moha, just Moha, was captured standing next to the alleged drug trafficker in the airport's check-in area, and he was picked up in Nyayo Estate on Monday morning by individuals identifying themselves as detectives. Neighbors said that there was a dramatic operation, as of course it's fun on a Monday, on condition of anonymity. One of them said that the early morning raid involved about 20 plainclothes officers who surrounded the premises before whisking him away. So sources at the DCI intimated that Moha was questioned for hours by DCI Director Mohammed Amin and the head of anti-narcotics Samuel Labosso, even as the Metropolitan Police wrote to Kenya on the status of the investigation. So the Met Police are in London, all right, and they're asking Kenya what's going on. All right, we move. Now, a source said this was a summon and not an arrest. So we were just asking questions. Top cops went to effect police summons. They needed to know what this man knows regarding the claims that have circulated in the media. If there was a reason to connect him to what happened, the cops will initiate a proper criminal profiling where they will dig into his call logs, workplace connections, and background to determine who exactly he is and whether he's a person of interest. So they're going to do their homework, essentially. So apparently they came around 7 a.m. and took them off, and then they had a conversation with them. Now, the other suspect, who was seen in a yellow reflector jacket guiding Dos Santos through security inside Terminal 1A, spent a night in custody at the airport police station where he's also interrogated before being released. Investigators say he's an employee of a Kenya-based firm specializing in airport ground services and air cargo handling services contracted by British Airways. So as we know, most major airlines have their people on the ground in a local airport to kind of, move, especially if that airport is a hub, kind of like what JKIA is. British Airways was also written to by the Standard, inquiring about the agreement between the status and the status of investigations. Now, it emerges that the Kenya Airports Authority has written to the DCI to furnish them with case files touching on narcotic smuggling at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport as the storm of the cocaine highway deepens. Sources indicate that Chairman Caleb Kostanyi has moved in to seize control of the scandal that has cast a pale shadow on the country's largest airport. They said, we don't like this kind of thing. Some top DCI officials have, however, claimed that they were unaware of the said request, and neither has Kitani confirmed the claims as he did not answer calls. So it goes on. And the Metropolitan Police confirmed to the Standard the arrest of Dos Santos, noting that he appeared before Isleworth Crown Court on the 16th of June, where he was remanded in custody as he awaits trial on the 3rd of December. Behind the scenes, insiders describe KAA management as unsettled by the recent revelations, that seemingly hoping the scandal will fade away. So they think, see stories, it will go to bed.
Yeah.
No. Apparently, from what we're hearing, might not go to bed just yet.
Yeah.
So it's police are seeking answers, and they want to know who exactly is doing this. And has Kenya gotten back on that radar, or JKIA specifically? Has it got? Because remember we said that this drug business, you'll see that stories will pop up, it'll die down. Folks are hoping that this will be another die down moment, but it seems that Kenya is back on the radar now when it comes to being a corridor for drugs and transit to either the Americas, Europe, or the Gulf.
Yeah. When you look at such story, not just this specific, you go back to the story of the lady in Vietnam.
Yeah.
There's the other lady as well who was arrested again over narcotics. I don't know.
It was in Asia somewhere. I can't remember. Yeah.
The reason why I'm putting JKIA, you look at the origin of these women, right? They started their journey from JKIA, then got to the Arab countries, and then made the transition. So if you just look at the connection with JKIA, it exposes JKIA as a major transit hub. And now this one even makes it more difficult because now there is politics that is also being introduced into this. Remember, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua now just pointing fingers on cabinet secretaries and how they are the ones aiding drug smuggling business in the country. So you look at it from that perspective in terms of a cabinet secretary, alleged cabinet secretary, and how the government is not responding to that. And then the international community will start looking at Kenya in terms of waiting to see what the president will do, what the security agencies will do, because then again, it stops being an isolated case of just a Kenyan, but now government's role into aiding the same.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's see. It's gonna unfold. They're gonna continue having those conversations. Another story you want to share with us?
Yeah, there's this story that I've seen on of this gentleman who's being smuggled. Yeah. So he left Nairobi to chase a better life across the borders, but ended up in a cell in Libya, beaten and starved as his family begged his smugglers for mercy. Across East Africa, Mr. Khalid Mohammed is among hundreds ensnared by the McGuffey network, a ruthless human trafficking ring that turns dreams of greener pastures in Europe into nightmares of ransom, slavery, and death. For a decade, Mr. Khalid tried to build a modest life in Nairobi. The Somali national worked in an electronics shop in city's central business district, earning just enough to support himself and occasionally send a little money back to his family in Somalia. At times things worked out well, but when they didn't, he would call his mother and ask her to pay his rent. When he realized that life was not getting better, he began to think about how he could secure greener pastures abroad. Now, in May 2025, he made a decision that changed not only his life, but also that of his family. Convinced by promises of better pay and safe passage, he packed his bags Sunday, May 18th, 2025, left his Nairobi home and boarded a South Sudan-bound bus. He told us he had found an opportunity, recalls his younger brother, Yahi Imran, speaking from Baidoa, Somalia. He said he would be away for a short time and then would return with something to help us. Mr. Imran said that instead of the positive things he had expected, things turned ugly when his brother fell into hands of smugglers who delivered him into one of the most dangerous migration corridors in the world. Weeks after his departure, Yahia's phone rang. On the screen was an international number. To his shock, it was not from South Sudan but Libya. On the line was his younger brother, his voice frail and trembling. He told me he was being held in a warehouse with other Somalis and people from different parts of Africa. Yahya said, adding that his brother informed him they were beaten, starved, and threatened daily. Now, the family is being asked to give a ransom of 2 million shillings. If not, the brother would be killed.
So they took him. So they took him for the purposes of this ransom.
Yeah, yes, but the promise was it is a safe migration into Europe for greener pastures.
But they were actually taking him for something else.
Yes.
So that is the hook that folks
That's
are
the
using
hook, yeah.
now. That we can take him to Europe, but then while we've taken him now, we're asking you, okay, fine, we can release him, but give us some money.
Yes.
Good grief.
Yeah, and you see, this is a story that has been happening for a very long time. Only that now it's being reported. But look at it's many Africans, Africans who find themselves in another African country trying to cross the borders into Europe. But this is what happens because smugglers have found there are Africans who are desperate, want to go into Europe, but you can take advantage of the situation and earn some money.
It still plays on the desperation
Yes.
of people, isn't it? Because you'll be surprised that, when we started seeing the stories of folks who were washed ashore because they tried to cross
Yes.
on a dinghy and
Yeah.
tried to get over to Spain or to France. And he said, this is a horrible, horrible way to die. And they would think that, okay, well, nobody's going to do it. But then people are crossing over that strait every day. But it also, like I said, preys rather on the desperation of people because people still want to go.
Yeah.
People still want to cross over and go to Europe in any way that they can to look for that better life. So these criminals essentially know that desperation exists. And so it's a perfect pathway for them to then be able to strike.
Yeah.
This is sad. So they're actually communicating with the family and saying, well, okay, pony up the cash and we'll let him go.
Let him go. If not, we're just telling you point blank that we will kill him.
Ouch.
Because even as he was calling the family, he's telling the family that I've been stabbed, I've been beaten, I'm in pain. Pay, please pay so that I come back home. It's not even a question of I want to go to Europe. I just want to come back home because what I'm going through is difficult. But let's, like Okari would say, let's zoom out. It is a problem of desperation because in different jurisdictions in the continent, fellow Africans feel we cannot make it at home. We can only make it outside. So what are the African governments perhaps doing? What are our leaders doing to make it easy for especially young people to make it at home?
So long as people are desperate, I said to him, so long as people are desperate and the answers to this desperation are not being offered at home, we will have this problem. This is not going to go away. That people are going to use what may be G2G prepared arrangements to leave. But you know what?
They're leaving.
The same people who are leaving through a G2G arrangement and getting a visa and going is the same as the people who are getting on a boat and trying to cross the Mediterranean. It's the same. It's the same.
Yeah.
The same problems are being suffered by people on both sides. It just so happens that maybe this person on this other side can actually go get a passport. It's not using asylum papers to then get onto the other side. So until and unless governments, and we can name the countries, until and unless governments, Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Mali, Chad, Mauritania,
Togo.
Western Sahel, Togo, Benin, Burkina Faso, maybe not so much Burkina Faso today, but Burkina Faso, on the western side of things, Cameroon. If you want to come to the eastern side of things, Sudan, South Sudan, Kenya, Uganda. Until these governments, DR Congo, Congo, Brazzaville,
Somalia.
Guinea, Somalia, until the governments do something that then does not make folks feel as though they will continue to wallow in poverty and that they can cross a raging sea to be able to get to a better life. Until that happens, we will continue to have this problem. We will. So let's just embrace it and say this is where we are. If we want to change it, let's change it.
Let's change
if
it.
we don't want to change it, then sit pretty and continue with the complaints. This is what we're going to get. People dying in the sea, others kidnapping them, thinking that we're going to give them a job.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah. Remember, even at the time when we had this, I think it was the PS, Ministry of Immigration. That time we're having that discussion on Kazimaju.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember
the PS Diaspora Affairs.
Diaspora Affairs, yes.
And then yes.
Yeah. Remember we're having that discussion on what is happening. I think it was in the Philippines island or something. And the discussion on how Kenyans live here with the idea that they're going to get better jobs, only to get there and you're being transitioned to being
a criminal.
A scammer.
Yeah.
And as much as some are being repatriated back home, many more are leaving. When I went to do my exams, I met many Kenyans there. But they're telling me I'm not coming back home. There is nothing for me to do back home. If I go back home, I am unable to make it. I will struggle here. I will do everything I need to make it here because there are opportunities here. Back home, there is nothing for me.
Wow. Well, that's something.
You know, this is a story. So imagine this gentleman coming back home and struggling here. What will they do? They will find a way of going back because they still have the visa to go back.
It's true. That's the reality of our day. And that's what exactly is happening. So we can complain about it, but until we're ready to do something about it, this is where we are.
Yeah.
We're getting closer to the top of the hour, but let me tell you really quickly why Kalonzo is the most sought-after politician. It's not me who said it, it's in the headlines. Once dismissed as indecisive and mocked as a watermelon, Kalonzo Musyoka has staged a stunning political comeback. Today, both President William Ruto and the opposition admit that the Wiper leader holds the key to State House. Not necessarily the one who's going to sit in the chair, but the one who is going to sway things, essentially is what they're saying. So maybe this thing of being called a red, juicy fruit is not necessarily a bad thing, because he could decide as a power broker who decides who gets into the presidency. They said he was a watermelon, but now there's a renewed respect, and it's a far cry for how he was treated just months ago. In February this year, President William Ruto condescendingly referred to Kalonzo as the Dengu man. Wow. Referencing green grams, one of the few crops that thrives in the relatively arid Ukambani region. Today, he's being called something else. And it looks as though whoever's going to get into State House is going to be duly influenced by one Kalonzo Musyoka. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.